Here are the top stories for today, September 20, 2019. Malacanang urges a new convicts released by the Good Conduct Time Allowance Law to surrender peacefully. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples reports that the displacement of IP communities is not due to militarization. The PNP says the death of a cadet at the Philippine Military Academy is likely caused by hazing. And Naga City gears up for the fluvial parade of the Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang has advised the convicts who were released through the Good Conduct Time Allowance to surrender to authorities. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Naga said inmates should rather surrender peacefully than end up to their records or endanger their lives. Naga assured that the convicts could be released for good if their records show that they are eligible under the GCTA. The palace made the statement as the deadline for the convicts to voluntarily surrender lapsed last midnight. Meantime, the Philippine National Police, or PNP, suspended the planned crackdown on the convicts who failed to surrender before the deadline. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara revealed that the list submitted by the Bureau of Corrections contained names of inmates who were freed due to parole and executive clemency and not GCTA. As of 11 p.m., only 197 of the nearly 2,000 inmates remain at large, despite President Duterte's 15-day ultimatum for them to surrender starting September 4. The House of Representatives may pass a proposed 4.1 trillion peso national budget for 2020 on second and third reading this Friday. House Committee on Appropriations Chair Isidro Ungab said this is possible after President Rodrigo Duterte certified the General Appropriations Bill as urgent. Today also marks the last day of plenary deliberations on the national budget. The House was planning to approve the 2020 budget on second reading on Friday and approved it on third reading before Congress goes on recess on October 4. House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez assured that the 2020 budget will be a reflection not only of the President's vision but also of the people's will. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Joey Salceda also vowed that the budget will have no insertions, delay, impasse, pork, or GDP cuts. Amid calls for drastic measures to solve the traffic crisis, Senator Aquilino Pimentel III on Thursday urged Congress to prioritize a proposal to grant emergency powers to President Duterte. Pimentel cited the losses incurred in man-hours, productivity, and opportunities every day due to crippling traffic. Last year, the Philippines suffered an estimated economic loss of 3.5 billion pesos daily due to Metro Manila traffic. Pimentel said the government could immediately enter into projects that can help solve traffic issues with such powers granted to the president. Examples of which include the construction of elevated roads and walkways, as well as bike lanes along EDSA, Ortigas Avenue, Shaw Boulevard, and Ayala Avenue, and traffic bridges and roads in Cebu. Senator Grace Poe earlier said even without the emergency powers, there are already laws and policies to alleviate the woes of the Filipino commuters and motorists. On the other hand, Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade enumerated the agency's plans on how to use the emergency powers to be granted to the president. A Philippine Military Academy cadet who died inside his barracks at Fort del Pilar in Baguio City last Wednesday is suspected to be a victim of hazing. 20-year-old cadet Darwin Dormitorio of Cagayan de Oro City complained of stomach pain and died at the PMA Station Hospital. Baguio City Police said Dormitorio had bruises on his stomach, a possible sign of hazing. PMA Superintendent Ronnie Evangelista said 2 third-class cadets and 1 first-class cadet were being investigated over Dormitorio's death. 20 cadets are being interviewed as potential witnesses. President Duterte signed in 2018 a law prohibiting hazing following the death of University of Santo Tomas law student Horacio Castillo III. The suspects in the killing of a radio anchor in Kidapawan City are indicted for murder. Meanwhile, 51 Chinese women are rescued from a prostitution den in Parañaque City. More on this and other news around the metro from Benj Bondok.
The Presidential Task Force on Media Security on Thursday reported that murder charges have been filed against all three suspects in the killing of Eduardo Dizon, an anchor of Brigada News FM in Kidapawan City. Indicted were Junel Jane Andagkit Poten alias Junel Girozaga, Sotero Hacolbe Jr. alias Jun Hacolbe, and Dante Encarnacion Tabusares alias Bong Encarnacion. The PTFOMS said the three planned to kill Dizon, a critic of the controversial Kappa, who was shot several times and died last July 10. Meanwhile, authorities rescued 51 Chinese women when police raided a sex den in Parañaque City. The operation also resulted in the arrest of 18 patrons and 13 maintainers, all Chinese nationals, in a spa along Ross Boulevard in Baclaran on Wednesday. The NCRPO said the spa does not have any permit to operate from the city government. The Chinese women are also using tourist visas. In other news, 3 foreign nationals were arrested in separate occasions at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport for attempting to enter and leave the country with spurious travel documents. African Mohamed Keita was arrested at NAIA 3 on September 12 after yielding a counterfeit Mali passport. On the other hand, Chinese passenger Wang Lei was barred from boarding his flight for Vancouver for using a fake Canadian visa last September 10. The other Chinese national, who was identified as a certain Sunny Tamayo Liang, was arrested at the NAIA 2 for carrying a stolen Philippine passport last September 5. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
Still to come, the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples report that the displacement of IP communities is not due to militarization. General Santos City joins the fight against online child pornography. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa lahat ng ito, naging matagumpay ang ating preparasyon. At ito ay hindi mangyari kung wala yung cooperation ng iba't ibang sektor, ng iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno.
The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples disproved reports claiming that militarization is the top reason for the displacement of indigenous peoples in the southern Philippines. NCIP Chairperson Allen Capuyan made the statement in a dialogue during the 42nd session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. While explaining the causes of enforced displacement, Capuyan referred to the countless cases of illegal occupation of ancestral domains and the systematic abuse and exploitation of indigenous peoples by the CPP-NPA and its front organizations. He said the Philippine government is doing all it can to bring the perpetrators to justice and end these atrocities once and for all. Capuyan requested UN Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, Victoria Tauli Corpus, to share best legal practices in ensuring accountability for those behind atrocities against IPs, among others. Kapuyan reiterated that the Philippine government considers the protection of the IPs as a priority and maintains its support for the mandates on their rights and expert mechanism. The Lopez Group has signed a power agreement with Meralco to supply 100 megawatts to Metro Manila for 5 years starting December 26, 2019. Its renewable energy portfolio, composed of First Gen Hydro and Energy Development Corporation, signed the deal with the utility company on September 16 after it was able to outbid other suppliers for the 500 megawatt mid-merit power requirement. The EDC said winning the contract is a clear indication that clean, renewable energy can be priced lower versus carbon-intensive non-renewable energy sources. Such gives power consumers a more compelling reason to decarbonize our economy by transitioning to renewable energy. Power will be supplied by First Gen Hydro and EDC's Nasulo, Tangonan, and Bacon Manito geothermal facilities. EDC accounts for 37% of the country's total generated renewable energy, making it the country's leading RE company. The provincial chapter of the League of Municipalities of the Philippines in Bukidnon has collectively denounced the so-called atrocities of the New People's Army, or NPA. In a resolution released on Wednesday, the LMP Bukidnon denounced the NPA for alleged violations of the international humanitarian law. LMP Bukidnon also declared the Communist Party of the Philippines and its political organ, the National Democratic Front of the Philippines, as persona non grata. The Army's 403rd Brigade said the NPA has already committed 9 atrocities against civilians in Bukidnon this year. LMP Bukidnon President Reynante Inocando urged municipal governments to create their respective fact-finding teams and file complaints against the NPA on behalf of their constituents. Meanwhile, officials of Tampakan Town in South Cotabato Province declared the CPP-NPA-NDF persona non grata, saying they are fed up with the atrocities of the communist rebels over the years. In a resolution released to the media on Thursday, the Municipal Council of Tampakan rejected and denounced the reported presence of the rebels in its hinterland villages. The resolution accused the rebels of impeding local economic activities by extorting money from local businesses. It said the NPA has also been recruiting members of the Blaan tribe, especially minors, through intimidation and violence. National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon has called on the sectors to help the government stop the recruitment activities of communist insurgents in schools. Esperon particularly advised the youth to value education and stay away from the NPA's front organizations, which he said are recruiting potential combatants in school campuses. Esperon made the call on September 12 in Butuan City during the Barangay Summit on Executive Order 70, which seeks a whole-of-nation to end communist insurgency. The summit also doubled as a meeting of the Caraga Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. Meanwhile, Secretary Carlo Nograles, the Cabinet Officer for Regional Development and Security, underscored the importance of convergence in addressing insurgency in every barangay. Colonel Maurito Licudin, commander of the Army's 402nd Infantry Brigade, expressed his gratitude to Caraga RTF LCAC for being at the forefront in facilitating convergence to address issues that fuel insurgency in the region. The town of Macabebe, Pampanga is placed under a state of calamity due to prolonged flooding. Meanwhile, 4 towns in Pangasinan suspend classes due to rainy weather. More on this and other news from the provinces from Teresa Montemayor.
The municipality of Macabebe, Pampanga was placed under a state of calamity due to prolonged flooding caused by the recent weather disturbances and enhanced southwest monsoon. The Sangguniang Bayan of Macabebe reports that almost all the 25 barangays of Macabebe have been greatly affected by the flooding due to the continuous heavy rains brought about by southwest monsoon, the inflow of salt water due to high tide, and the onslaught of the recent weather disturbances. Over 7,500 families were already adversely affected by the floods. In Pangasinan, classes in the municipalities of Lingayen, Orbistondo, San Manuel, and Mangatarem were cancelled on Friday due to rainy weather caused by the southwest monsoon enhanced by Tropical Storm Nympha. Lingayen, Orbistondo, and San Manuel suspended classes in all levels, while Mangatarem canceled classes from preschool to senior high school. The movement of Tropical Storm Nympha is enhancing the southwest monsoon, causing scattered rains in some parts of the province. Meanwhile, an Australian-based non-profit organization has donated various medical equipment boosting the healthcare capability of the Western Mindanao Command, or the WestMinCom. The Australian Masonic Friends of the Philippines Incorporated handed over equipment such as hospital beds, rehab walkers, wheelchairs, and bedside tables through the Camp Navarro General Hospital. WestMinCom said the donated equipment will be utilized by medical forces, especially those deployed in conflict-affected areas. In other news, the local government of General Santos City has partnered with the United States Department of Homeland Security, or USHDS, to combat online child and teen pornography and counter other cyber threats against children. The USDHS launched the project iGuardian, which aims to keep children and teens safe from online predators through education and awareness. The embassy cited the Philippines as one of the global hotspots for child pornography, with victims claiming poverty as their reason for engaging in these acts. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Up next, the DOH intensifies its vaccination program following the resurgence of polio in the country. Naga City gears up for the fluvial parade of the Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Ang maganda ho dito ay yung naibabalik ko yung pera ng bayan sa mga kababayan natin sa pamamagitan ng mga medical assistance. Ganito kasimple yan. For example, kanina, sa hospital ng Pagadian, ng Zamboanga del Sur, ang nangyari ho ay nagbukas po ng Malasakit Center. Ang Malasakit Center is ang one-stop shop. Kung may sakit, kung mahirap, nandun lahat. Nandun ang PCSO, nandun yung PAGCOR, nandun yung DOH. At kung kailangan mo ng medical assistance, ibibigyan ka agad-agad medical assistance. Now, if kulang ang pera mo sa pagbayad ng iyong medical bills, ay yung Malasakit Center, ay meron po silang sariling pondo. Magmabot ng mga 5 to 10 million a month. Okay? So, imbis na magbabayad pa yung pasyente doon sa balance ng kanyang bill dahil, may limit naman, may cap yung binibigay ng PAGCOR o ng PCSO o ng PhilHealth. Yung remaining balance na po ng Malasakit Center. So, ito po ay maganda at talagang nakakatulong sa ating mga mahirap na kababayan.
The Department of Health will intensify its vaccination campaign against polio after confirming the re-emergence of the disease in the country. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III confirmed the outbreak of polio in the country on Thursday. Duque said polio is re-emerging 19 years after the Philippines has been declared polio-free by the World Health Organization in 2000. He reported one case of polio, a 3-year-old from Lanao del Sur, and a suspected case of acute flaccid paralysis. He added that the polio virus has been detected in samples taken from sewage in Manila and waterways in Davao. Duque said the DOH is in close coordination with the local government units, national agencies, the World Health Organization, and UNICEF in implementing a series of synchronized oral polio vaccinations to protect every child under 5 years of age. Vaccination in the National Capital Region, Davao City, and Lanao del Sur will commence on October 14. And in our foreign news, the Tokyo District Court on Thursday ruled that 3 former officials of Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, were not guilty of negligence in failing to prevent the 2011 nuclear disaster at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. Former TEPCO Chairman Tsunehisa Katsumata and ex-Vice Presidents Ichiro Takekuro and Sake Muto argued they could not have anticipated a tsunami that could cause more meltdowns at the Daiichi nuclear power plant. The 3 were indicted in 2016 for professional negligence resulting in death and injury. Court-appointed lawyers said they failed to implement countermeasures that could have lessened the devastating impact of the earthquake-triggered tsunami. The disaster on March 11, 2011, left 44 people at the plant dead and a number of people injured by hydrogen explosions that ensued at the battered plant. Entrepreneurs from Central Luzon will showcase their products in the upcoming Likha ng Central Luzon Trade Fair 2019 at the SM Mega Trade Hall in Mandaluyong City from October 2 to 6. The Department of Trade and Industry said the Likha Trade Fair is one of the most awaited trade events for micro, small, and medium enterprises in the region. Over 160 MSMEs are expected to showcase their products to local and international buyers. A special setting showing prototypes of products developed under the One Town One Product Next Generation project will be featured. Now on its 21st year, the Likha Trade Fair has benefited thousands of traders who have participated since 1998. This year, the DTI said the Likha exhibitors target to earn more than 40 million pesos aside from getting booked orders. The stage is set for the fluvial parade of the Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia in Naga City. Hundreds of devotees and security personnel will keep watch over the image as the parade travels down the Naga River tomorrow, September 21st. More on this from Janice Cabe.
The pagoda carrying the image of Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia will be pulled by more than 100 boats manned by 200 voyadores as it navigates the Naga River during the fluvial procession on Saturday. The procession to Danlogan in Barangay Dinaga begins after the culmination of the 9-day prayer for the Divino Rostro and Our Lady of Peñafrancia at the Naga Metropolitan Cathedral. Roads will be closed at 12 noon to give way to the procession. The palangkin or andas carrying the image of Ina, as Bicolanos fondly called Bicolandia's patroness, will be escorted by 2 or 3 patrol cars of the Philippine National Police. Over 8,000 PNP personnel will be deployed for the event to do crowd control, including those who will pose as voyadores going along with the mammoth crowd. At least 30 floating assets from the Coast Guard will be deployed along Naga River to act swiftly against any untoward incident and to ensure that the pagoda will sail smoothly without being hindered by rowdy voyadores. Father Pablo Carpio, Vice Rector of Basilica Minores, said an estimated of 200 individuals, mostly members of the youth sector from different parishes and dioceses in the Bicol region, will ride on the pagoda as the Catholic Church declared 2019 as Year of the Youth. At least 10 fire trucks will be deployed in different areas covering the central business districts. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Here's another look at today's biggest stories.
Malacanang urges a new convicts released by the Good Conduct Time Allowance Law to surrender peacefully. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples reports that the displacement of IP communities is not due to militarization. The PNP says the death of a cadet at the Philippine Military Academy is likely caused by hazing. And Naga City gears up for the fluvial parade of the Nuestra Señora de Peñafrancia.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And before we close for the weekend, remember, success is not all about greatness. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will follow. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.